from facing serious charges to very concerning allegations involving minors.
A former Sydney swimming coach who preyed on his students has been jailed for 32 years. A judge today saying he used that fact to abuse 11 children.
These are 10 MasterChef contestants who turned evil. Starting with Filippo Silvestro from MasterChef Australia, who before the scandal looked like the kind of contestant who could build a real underdog run.
Very confident, Filippo, aren't you today?
I just like the cake, myself. Always asking my mother to make it for me.
Tastes delicious.
Thank you.
I think you did the right thing in terms of choosing something you feel comfortable with. It's a really nice lemony sponge.
He had a mystery box win, survived multiple pressure tests, and lasted long enough in the competition to feel like a serious contender rather than an early elimination.
Today, each of you had a crack with some fantastic results. But there can only be one winner of the Mystery Box Challenge. And that person is Filippo.
But Filippo's post-show downfall didn't come from a kitchen meltdown. Later reporting said he pleaded guilty on drug charges. What makes Filippo's story so jarring is how completely it shattered the polished TV image. MasterChef sells growth, discipline, and redemption, but Filippo's name ended up tied to the exact opposite, a criminal case that permanently changed how his time on the show was remembered. And while Filippo Silvestro's fall came through a drug case, Louis Donegan's scandal dragged MasterChef into domestic violence territory. Louis Donegan came from MasterChef, The Professionals, a version of the franchise built on technical precision, discipline, and elite culinary standards.
And the third chef that is leaving us is Louis.
I'm not happy with the performance today, but I'll take away from it the experience and the learning curve that we've had, and I really enjoyed it.
Before everything collapsed, that was his image, a polished professional chef competing in one of the most credibility-driven versions of the format. But in 2021, that professional image was ripped apart after he was arrested following a domestic incident. Reporting later said he was found guilty of assaulting his wife and was sentenced to unpaid work. What makes Louis Donegan's downfall so grim is the contrast.
Louis has got a point to prove. He's making a pigeon dish, which he's going to pan fry, pan roast into the oven. Serving it with asparagus puree. He's got morels, which he's going to mix through with the fresh peas.
We know all those flavours will work together, but I suppose it's all down to the skill of the chef.
He sold himself as a kitchen professional with absolute control under pressure. But outside the kitchen, that image of control gave way to criminal violence. And once that happened, the prestige attached to his MasterChef run was gone forever. Louis Donegan's story was violent and criminal, but Josh Marks' story is an outright public tragedy. Josh Marks was one of the most memorable contestants in MasterChef US history. Before the collapse, he was the giant charismatic runner-up of Season 3, a contestant strong enough to reach the finale and become one of the defining faces of that season. He even fought his way back into the competition, which made his story feel even more dramatic and inspirational on screen.
Go, come on guys! I want my plate to have that absolute freaking wow factor.
Finish strong, Josh, finish strong.
I want this so bad. This is what I came here for, and tonight's the night I make it happen.
But what happened next was so devastating. In July 2013, according to contemporaneous reporting, Marks used a University of Chicago emergency blue light phone around 4 a.m. When an officer arrived and asked what the emergency was, police said Marks immediately attacked him, took him to the ground, hit him several times, and tried to grab the officer's weapon when another officer came to help. Police said he was struck with a baton, pepper sprayed, fled the scene, and was later found hiding nearby before being arrested. At that point, the story looked like a former reality TV finalist had suddenly spiraled into a bizarre and violent confrontation with police. On the surface, it read like a straight criminal collapse story. One more celebrity-adjacent downfall after fame, but the reporting that followed made it clear that there was something much darker and sadder happening underneath it. But the reporting around the case later tied the incident to a severe mental health crisis rather than simple malice.
Friday night about 6:30 p.m., police responded to a man down in the 9600 block of South Peoria. They found it to be Joshua Marks, who was a man who was a finalist in a reality TV series, MasterChef. It appeared he had fatally shot himself in the head in an apparent suicide. His relatives explained that he'd been distraught recently and suffered from bipolar disorder.
He tragically ended his life a few months later. Josh Marks met a tragic end, but Gregg Wallace helped throw MasterChef UK itself into crisis.
Only 10 minutes, please. Come on. 60 seconds. Come on, get them on a plate. Stop. You have to stop. Time is up.
Gregg Wallace wasn't just a contestant, he was one of the defining faces of MasterChef UK.
Every little bit of that shellfish is beautiful. It's got exactly the right texture as well, and there's the saltiness of the sea coming from it as well. Your tempura is as light as you like. Your langostine's brilliantly cooked. Textures are great, flavors are natural and they're good. Well done.
Before the scandal, Gregg's public image was almost inseparable from the franchise itself. He was the loud, recognizable TV personality of the judging duo, and his reaction-heavy presence became part of the show's identity for years. But in 2025, an independent Bonajay investigation substantiated 45 of 83 allegations against him, most involving inappropriate sexual language and humor. The BBC later said it had no plans to work with him in future.
Listen, I'm really intrigued because your love is pastry.
Yeah.
So tell me why we're not getting a sweet dish from you.
I want to impress without using my pastry skills first. I didn't think in the time that I had, I'd have enough time to do a proper pastry dish.
You looked a little bit down the last round. What did you say to yourself? How are you feeling?
I told myself to forget about it, to learn from it, and to now show what I really can do.
This wasn't one explosive incident. It was a broad pattern of alleged workplace behavior that became impossible to ignore. And because Gregg had been such a central face of the show, the scandal didn't just stain him, it contaminated the brand around him. Gregg Wallace's scandal damaged the institution, but John Torode's downfall made the MasterChef UK crisis even worse. John Torode had long been framed as the calmer, more authoritative counterpart to Gregg Wallace.
How's the liver? Fine. Heart? Healthy. Kidneys? Too rare.
For the scandal, he was the serious culinary figure beside the louder TV personality, the judge who gave MasterChef UK its professional legitimacy.
I've got to say right now, you're looking a bit pained.
Yeah. This is a bit doughy. It's a bit sticky at the moment, I think.
What are you making for us, Fred?
Ravioli of mussels, sun-dried tomatoes and anchovies.
Very strong flavours.
Yeah.
Do you think right now is probably not the best time for us to be talking to you? Lovely clean flavour that's going with it. It's not fatty, it's not greasy. They'll come out really nicely, and I think you've done it really well. Let's move on from your starter. The broth, it needs something else to bring it up to make it alive, because that fish is delicious. I'm really excited that you've done what you've done today so well, considering where you were yesterday.
But in 2025, the BBC said an independent investigation substantiated an allegation that he used an extremely offensive racist term in the workplace. His contract was not renewed, even if he disputed the allegation. But what makes Torode's case so damaging is what it does symbolically. Once the steady authority figure becomes the subject of a substantiated racist language allegation, the credibility of the show itself starts to collapse. The John Torode dragged scandal into the heart of the MasterChef franchise, but Ben Ungermann showed how fast a contestant's comeback story could implode. Ben Ungermann had all the ingredients for a redemption arc. Before the scandal, he was one of MasterChef Australia's most recognizable modern contestants.
This is the most important cook in my life, and Diana is absolutely smashing me at the moment.
That's it, good pace, Diana, just keep it up.
I am so far behind, it's not funny.
Come on, honey, keep pushing.
There's so much self-doubt going on, and at this rate and with my attitude, I won't get this dish up today.
The runner-up of season 9, and later a returning face on Back to Win. That made him feel like a long-term fan favorite, not a one-season footnote.
I can't tell if this mixture has crystals in it, but at this stage, I feel like I've taken way too much time trying to get this element up. I think I'm gonna have to go with it. I just hope it won't crystallize when it starts to set.
It seems crazy doing a time call like this, but 1 hour down, 5 hours to go. Let's keep the pace up. Come on.
Come on, guys.
But in 2020, that image shattered when he was arrested and charged. The case later ended with him admitting to a lesser common law assault charge, with no conviction recorded.
A dumped MasterChef contestant has vowed to clear his name over allegations he sexually assaulted a teenage girl in Docklands. As Eliza Rugg explains, prosecutors want to call a number of child witnesses, give evidence against the TV chef.
That legal distinction matters in court, but in terms of public image, the damage was already done. Ben had been framed by television as a comeback figure and a fan favorite. But after the case, he became associated not with resilience, but with arrest, allegations, and a scandal that permanently altered his legacy.
Ben has had to leave the competition and he will not be returning.
Prosecutors told the magistrate today it doesn't appear there's any prospect of the matter resolving at this point in time.
While Ben Ungermann's story destroyed a comeback narrative, Carwyn Ash's case crossed into something much more disturbing. Carwyn Ash's downfall is one of the most disturbing linked to any MasterChef name. Before the criminal case, he was simply a MasterChef UK contestant, a regular competitor with nothing in his on-screen identity to suggest the darkness that would later define his public image.
Come on, Billy, let's go. Come on, go, quick.
Oh, pop that one as well.
Come on. Service, please, thank you very much.
Then in 2023, he was convicted over child abuse images, extreme pornography offenses, and attempting to pervert justice by blackmailing police officers. He was jailed for 3 years. There's no ambiguity in a case like this, and all that remained for him is serious criminality on a level that permanently stains the contestant's legacy. Carwyn Ash's crimes were horrifying, but Paul Douglas Frost's case was even larger in scale and even more devastating in consequence. Paul Douglas Frost's name is tied to one of the most severe and devastating criminal cases ever associated with the MasterChef franchise.
A former Sydney swimming coach who preyed on his students has been jailed for 32 years. Paul Frost is the son of an Olympic-level swimming trainer. A judge today saying he used that fact to sexually abuse 11 children.
Frost appeared on the very first season of MasterChef Australia in 2009, but while he was smiling for the cameras and building a public profile, he was simultaneously hiding a monstrous reality. The timeline of his crimes didn't happen after his fleeting television fame, it was happening during it.
I want to keep it simple. The road so far has kind of taught me just to go with something that's a little bit...
Oh, I hope you're right. There's another man down there who's doing pretty much the same dish. And he said to me, I didn't want to make it complicated.
Oh, that's exactly it.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good luck.
For over a decade, between 1996 and 2009, Frost worked as a swim coach in Sydney's southwest. During that time, he used his position of authority to deliberately build a culture of grooming and abuse. Prosecutors during his trial described the aquatic center as his sexual playground. He manipulated his young students, normalized explicit conversations to make them feel like the cool kids, and moved calculatedly from one victim to the next.
Each offence appears opportunistic, impulsive and spontaneous. It is completely naive to describe the offending that way. The evidence overwhelmingly establishes that the offender created an environment to facilitate his offending. The 48-year-old was arrested in 2019. 2 victims had come forward. More followed. In
2023, he was found guilty of 43 child sexual abuse offenses involving 11 children. Later reporting said he was sentenced to 32 years in prison with a non-parole period of at least 24 years. What happened here wasn't scandal or controversy or bad behavior. It was a criminal case on a devastating scale involving repeated abuse and multiple victims.
Survivors of child sexual abuse, they are dealt a life sentence. 32 years is nowhere near enough to cover that.
And while Paul Douglas Frost's case was monstrous, James Hywel showed that some downfalls end in fraud, deception, and abuse of public trust. James Hywel Thomas looked at first like just another ordinary amateur cook stepping into the MasterChef UK kitchen.
I'm a fly by the seat of their pants type cook. It's no recipes, no rules, but that's the way things roll.
Dad of 2, Jamie, is director of a marketing company in Wrexham.
In other aspects of life, there's always someone telling you, no, you can't do that, no, you can't do that. Well, with cooking, you can do whatever you like. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's a complete disaster, but it's something you can just get on with.
Before the fraud case became public, he was one of the contestants in MasterChef UK Series 14.
What are you going to make? I'm going to make some kind of lamb koftas. I'm going to make flatbreads with that, a rice pilaf, maybe some hummus, and we'll see how we get to with time.
Who do you cook for?
My wife, kids, friends, family, everyone piles into my house. You're all big foodies, so I'm cooking every weekend, like 16, 20 people, so yeah, it's pretty heavy going.
What's a foodie?
Someone like me who consumes food and in ample quantities. Thanks, Mel.
But his run didn't last more than 2 episodes as he was swiftly eliminated.
Saliha, Alex, very well done, ladies. You are quarter-finalists. Our third and last quarter-finalist is Richard. Jamie, sorry, mate, good to have met you.
Thanks, Jamie.
guys.
Thanks so much indeed. Take care. Bye-bye.
I feel a little bit of regret that I think I possibly could have done slightly better, but, you know, everyone's got to have their time to go. They were 3 great cooks to cook with, so, you know, I wish them all the best.
In March 2018, reporting said James Hywel Thomas had pleaded guilty to fraud charges involving more than £65,000 after failing to provide tickets to sporting events that did not exist. The same report said he also admitted abusing his position to obtain a Mercedes, forging signatures, and committing credit card fraud. He was immediately sent to jail. And fans were appalled by that, so after facing backlash, a BBC MasterChef spokesperson explained, "We always complete the required background checks on all our contestants, and at the time of filming, Jamie Thomas passed all the necessary checks." James Hywel Thomas's downfall was built on fraud, but Atiqah's case is much more darker. Atiqah Siti Norashikin Mohad Sulang once looked like exactly the kind of contestant MasterChef was built to celebrate. Before the case, she was known as a MasterChef Malaysia Season 2 finalist, finishing in 4th place and making it deep enough into the competition to be remembered as one of the season's standout cooks. That matters because it means she was not some forgettable early elimination. She was one of the contestants viewers would have seen as talented, credible, and close to the top.
Former MasterChef Malaysia finalist Atiqah Siti Norashikin Sulang and her ex-husband Muhammad Amri Yunos have been sentenced to 34 years in prison each for the murder of their Indonesian domestic worker. The Kota Kinabalu High Court on Friday found the 37-year-old Atiqah and 44-year-old contractor Amri guilty of killing 28-year-old Nur Afia Deng Damin.
But outside the kitchen, that public image collapsed into something much darker. In 2021, Atiqah and her former husband were charged over the death of their Indonesian maid, Adelina Lisau. The allegations were already shocking on their own because this was not some vague tabloid scandal or off-screen controversy.
The crime was committed between December 8th and 11th in 2021 at their condominium in Penampang. The court ordered the jail terms to commence immediately. Amri was also sentenced to 12 strokes of the cane. The court ruled that the pair had acted with a common intention, with evidence showing the victim had suffered fatal injuries deliberately inflicted by the accused.
It was a murder case, and by the time the legal process concluded, it had become one of the darkest crimes linked to any MasterChef name. In 2025, the court convicted both Atiqah and her ex-husband and sentenced them to 34 years in prison. That final sentence turned the story from a shocking accusation into a completed criminal downfall.
The prosecution had urged the court to impose the maximum sentence, saying the brutality of the case had shocked the nation. They said the maid suffered daily abuse and was denied her basic rights, including unpaid wages and the inability to return to Indonesia.
The kind that permanently erases the version of someone the audience first met on reality television.